Hey, look at that. It's time for our little Zoom from home quarantine True Hoop show called Bring It In. And it's Friday, so that means we are featuring the Superstar Fridays, Jarod Hector. How are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. How are you, David? What's going on over there?
Nothing. I'm excited. Fridays are a great day. I was just saying that I used to like to click on what you guys posted in our doc to get a heads up, and now I don't. I like to hear it as fresh as like everyone else. Yeah, be surprised. It's always good stuff.
Do you know what just occurred to me? Was it when we started Bring It In? Was it March? I think.
March 10th, maybe March 12th.
An insane thought that struck me was like, oh, I should try not to wear the same shirt again and again because like that'll be nobody cares. But like now, I'm like I've worn the same shirt like 100 times.
Before we begin, and Judy, I apologize if your left arm's going to get tired, but on that first episode we had Prim. Yes. And Prim said the single smartest thing that's ever been said on the show, pandemic related, when she said we should just assume everyone has the virus.
Yes.
If everyone did that, we'd be long over at least the major parts of it, right? That simple little thing of just assume other people have it and let's act accordingly. It's amazing. Yeah, we have.
Yeah, no, Prim's smart. She knows what she's talking about.
Right, lady, for sure.
Yeah, she's got her PhD. Okay. Yeah, right. Jarod, it's Friday. You're Jarod. It's called Fridays with Jarod. So bring it.
Bring it. So obviously the Miami Heat are up 3-1 on the Boston Celtics. And after game 4, Erik Spoelstra was asked a question in his postgame about Tyler Herro.
Underestimates what you can do in a day, and they underestimate what you can do in months of work and sweat and grind when nobody's watching. He is relentless with his work ethic. Nobody was paying attention to.
And that's just so emblematic of obviously what Tyler's done. And Coach talks about royal jelly and the various things and the ways in which you build someone's confidence up to get to the point where they are a 20-year-old rookie on this stage. They can shoot air balls. I'm fine. Come back down and hit 5 shots in a row. What Tyler's doing is incredible, but the part that I love that Spoelstra said is that we do overestimate what can be done in a day and don't think about what can be done after months and months of painstakingly grinding hard work. Like, we live in this culture of instant success and celebrity and everything has to happen now. Like, that's not real. Like, if you're going to be as good in your profession or anything as Tyler Herro is at basketball, it's the grind, man. The day-to-day work and the failure and the learning from it, that's how you get good and get better. So that when you're on this stage, all right, I can do this. I have the confidence because I've put in the work. And coaches, and as a coach, I know that's what you strive to your players all the time.
Yeah, the long-term thing, same as parenting. Yeah, it's good. Great. He's been amazing. So Dwight Howard had this incredible putback dunk last night. He had an amazing first half, almost a double-double. And after he dunked it, J.R. Smith does that Superman thing that we're seeing on video. If you can't hear it, but you got to see it. He just pulls his cape, his shirt open like Clark Kent might do to unveil Superman, which, of course, Dwight used to pretend. And it reminds me, I saw J.R. 2004 Summer League, Long Beach, California. He was outside of a restaurant. I was going to meet a player for dinner, and he was just sitting there alone. He was 18 years old. He was a kid. And then someone called him, and he started cussing up a storm, and I just thought, I don't know what's going to happen to this young man. He's a really, really talented player. And seeing that video yesterday reminded me, you know, he's like all of us. We're still a boy sometimes, and we should be. Like, we're allowed to be a young person and just enjoy our teammates' success. J.R. Smith has done nothing. I'm sure he's happy to have a job, and it's obvious. And the Lakers have won some games, quite frankly. They easily could have lost last night. Maybe they should have. But their culture has been good enough. They care about each other enough. And I'm glad J.R. is part of that. He is a guy to watch on the bench. He is exhibiting love for his teammates, including Dwight, who hasn't always been so loved. And it's refreshing to see. And who knows, maybe J.R. Smith is going to make a big shot before this whole playoffs are done.
This is so embarrassing. I would like to sort of teasingly make fun of my friend David Thorpe, who often likes to tell the story of the 300-pound big man he coached in high school. And the joke is he's told me a lot of times, but now I'm forgetting the guy's name. What's his name?
Dimitri Hill.
Okay. So you know what I'm talking about. We talked about it yesterday. So David brilliantly had 300-pound Dimitri Hill do guard things in practice, right? Which made I didn't play. I played basketball for a sum total of 1 year organized, and it was 8th grade, and it was very low level. But they would break us into like basically skilled players and bigs, and the bigs would do every single thing that they would do was within like a foot of the rim. And we're going to post a story later today, which is basically about Anthony Davis and Nikola Jokic and Bam Adebayo and how stupid my 8th grade coach was. Basically, like, I think that, Shaquille O'Neal always said he wanted to play point guard, but everyone just knew that he couldn't do that with that body. But like, we don't know that. Like, if he'd started in 6th grade, maybe he could have. Like, and I think that this is now we're learning that everybody needs skill. Now there's space. Like, every single player should have a skill. David has a brilliant story coming about it. And he was doing this with Dimitri Hill in what year?
I started coaching him in 19.
What year are we talking, David?
When he was in 8th grade, 88.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Brilliant. Okay. Well, you can read about that later, but that's what I was thinking about, was just breaking it into skilled and bigs. Let's not do that anymore.
No, they still do it, by the way. They still do it.
Yeah.
So obviously, we're all aware of the passing of the late Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg and the now ensuing fight over filling that seat.
Democrats don't appear to have the votes to do anything about that right now. Do you think differently?
No, we don't appear to have the votes to do anything about it right now. We still don't know where everyone stands. And so it's going to be a long shot. We're going to do everything we can to try to appeal to their sense of decency, that you can't just a matter of months ago, as Lindsey Graham did, say that there is a standard, say that you will uphold it, tell people to use your words against you on this matter, and then have them suddenly flip and change that. As we said earlier, this is delegitimizing and politicizing.
That statement by Cory Booker, to me, is so crazy. He's trying to negotiate in good faith with bad faith actors, right? People who literally change and go back on their word all the time for political gain. The idea that we can fight this from a let's come to the table and everybody does the right thing has been proven incorrect time and time again. Now, that's not saying that Booker and Democrats should be underhanded, but the Republicans play for keeps and don't fight fair. So if your idea is we're going to come with fairness and you're going to fight against them, it's not going to work.
I laugh at a decency word coming out of describing them. Washington Post had a nice little article this week I saw. Some people are getting hotter during the pandemic. How dare they? And they're not talking about temperature hot. These are basically people that they interviewed and that have just committed to being healthier and losing weight and getting stronger, eating healthier. And my wife and I had already decided that we're going to try that. We're empty nesters. We're very happy about it. And we both need partners on it, because for me especially, I eat pretty healthy, but not nearly as healthy as I need to. She's probably much better than me at it. But together we're going to be able to do this. And so I want to take the time to I think we're in this pandemic for a long time. And I'm not a scientist and I'm not an expert, but I listen to lots of scientists and experts and they think that. So I feel like we're going to be stuck in the same rut for a long time. We are lucky in Florida. Our weather is about to get amazing. As I like to boast, it's very, very hot and humid still. We have no excuses. So anyone, if you need any kind of motivation, find someone to be a diet partner with, a workout partner with. Take advantage of these coming months. There'll be no NBA games for a while. Who the hell wants to watch football? Baseball's over soon enough. Take the time to love someone up and partner up and eat better, get healthier, avoid alcohol as much as possible and sugar. And let's at least feel better, even though we can't go anywhere. Sorry, Judy.
Yeah, when we're done with 9 by 90, we're just going to unleash Judy on what you just said. I saw this little tweet yesterday that the Sixers, there's like a long game where they might be trying to get James Harden. And it just struck me as a little bit funny. Here's why. If you read all the reporting and books and articles and feature stories, like when the Sixers these current owners were brand new owners, they considered offering the job to Sam Hinkie a year before they did. And there were a series of meetings, and the Rockets' strategy of arbitrage was explained, where they made this trade, that trade. I think it was something like 40 trades where they upgraded a little bit and amassed the assets to trade for James Harden. The point of the presentation was to play the long game and make these little value moves, right? To be a little smarter, to get a little better with every trade over time, every draft pick, etc. But now I'm seeing they got the other message, which is, oh, let's make a showy trade for one of the highest paid players in the league when he will be severely in his decline, right? Like, it's the exact opposite point. But they're the same owners, and now they still want the same player. And it struck me as like, oh, I totally believe that they want that player. I just feel a little bit like it's a perfect portrait of how they've reversed their approach.
Henry, it's like that idea of like the known quantity, right? So, well, I know this guy's good, so this will work. But it's like, yeah, it would have worked 5 years ago.
Yeah, that would have been the time. You want to buy low.
Right. Yeah. Not now. So Jimmy Butler is getting a lot of praise, and we talked about Miami Heat culture and everything that's happening with them on this show and everywhere. And there was an interesting tweet that I saw. And Draymond Green said, they said he was a bad teammate because he wanted to win. Smack my head. He found a group that want to win as bad. He actually made that group want to win as bad as him. Found some Indians that just needed a chief. It's fun to watch. And then CJ quote tweeted and said, I love it. Everyone doesn't respond the same when they're challenged by a teammate. We have no problem challenging guys. The key is to back it up with work. Allow people to challenge you. Jimmy does both. He empowers his teammates, let them flourish. Same thing that Damian Lillard does. I thought that was so important because we always talk about leadership styles and different ways that people do things. Jimmy has been derided as a bad teammate, right? Like in Chicago and Minnesota and Philadelphia. But the reality is that we're seeing is that Jimmy has a specific style of leadership and way he goes about things. It's abrasive, right? And if you do not deal well with confrontation and aggressive abrasiveness, Jimmy ain't the teammate for you because it's just you're not going to respond to being called out and being challenged. And it doesn't come from a place of, I think you suck, I want to make you feel bad. It's, dude, look how hard I work. Get your ass in the gym and let's do this and make it happen. That was the big thing with him and Karl-Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins. Jimmy would say over and over, these guys got more talent in their finger than I do, but why am I better than them? Well, the level of work that he puts in, that's not what they do. And that sort of causes conflict. I mean, that's Kobe Bryant in a nutshell, right? I don't understand why you can't do what it is I want you to do. And this is where you have friction.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, no doubt. The smart guy isn't always a good teacher in math either. So President Obama has a video about getting out to vote. And I want to brag for a second. My wife right now is just getting her training to call registered Democrats actually and challenge them to vote. That's what she'll be doing every day up to Election Day. On Election Day, she actually is working at she's a deputy at a poll where she's in charge of the whole thing. That's not on behalf of the Democrats. But I've talked to my wife about this, and she's worried that people who don't vote in person are going to do it wrong. So Trump is wrong. Of course, he's lying about the fraud part, at least historically speaking. But the truth is, if Democrats who typically vote more often by mail, absentee or not, it happens again during the pandemic, they're going to mess up when they vote. You have to sign the envelope. There's certain things you've got to do right. So as you talk to anyone, yes, make sure they vote. Beg them to vote for the only sane person running for office, in my opinion. But also make sure they do it right. If they're not going to go in person, take their time, watch YouTube videos, talk to smart people, make sure you do it correctly so your vote counts. That's what matters most, is do all the little things necessary to make sure that vote counts. We need every vote possible in all these purple states. It's literally life and death now. We're talking about life and death.
The fact that voting by mail is like potentially a thing that you can do wrong because they make it obscure about how to do it is a problem in and of itself, right? Like that your fundamental right as an American is the voting franchise. And to make that difficult says everything you need to know about where we live.
Judy, I unfairly added a tweet very late in the game. I'm not sure if you have that available or not. Check this out.
This show in the White House?
Yeah. I don't see it. Do you guys see it?
No, it didn't come on, but you can take longer than a minute 30 because it's the last one.
So, no, I can do. Okay, here we go. Sheldon Whitehouse is a U.S. senator from Rhode Island. he's been making little comments about, like, you have to understand there's like a shadowy group behind what's happening on the Supreme Court. Somebody gave $17 million. His point is that the Supreme Court will make sort of binding, high impact public policy decisions that are unpopular, which makes it a much more valuable tool than the legislature, because legislators won't, in the end, pass legislation that will get them voted out of office, or not commonly. This struck me as like, wow, I have no idea what's going on here. Sheldon Whitehouse sounds incredibly ominous. He thinks this whole thing has been purchased a long time ago, as I'm getting from that. And it just struck me that, like, the reason that he's not saying more is because politicians all need money, right? And this is where it does connect to the NBA is, you know, the big money, the big new money over the last decade is offshore money, which we've learned about on the show from Oliver Bullock, and nobody's policing that right now. And it's not a coincidence because everybody needs that, right? This is what's the cool thing. The original title I had for this whole section, I'm sorry, I'm over time, is if it ain't money laundering, it ain't cool. But that's where the big money is. This is where you wrap up a lot of the players that we talk about in our little circle all the time. Anyway, that's the Internet by 90. Okay.
The capitalist machine.
I think we have 70 different topics we just raised that we could talk more about. You want to go first, Jarod?
No, I was just agreeing with you. Just, yeah, shouts to the capitalist machine. That's all.
Hey, it's another win.
That is not you. You sound like Jason Tatum in the first half of the last game. I need a little energy. I need second half LeBron from last night or fourth quarter. I need something. Come on, Jarod.
Shouts to the number one band in the world that plays nothing but the hits. Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, all the oil monies in the UAE. You know, bad dudes. All bad dudes.
Judy, you want to take your minute and talk about pandemic hotness?
What the fuck, David Thorpe? Don't we have enough to worry about? The world is going to hell. What, like, we all agreed, I thought, that we were going to get to eat chips and salsa and drink margaritas every day, and that was going to be our one comfort during a time in which, like, all hell has broken loose. I'm going to sit here and wear my muumuus and drink my cocktails while you're in your 80-degree weather, pool-loving, fitness-having selves, and we'll see who's happier at the end of this whole thing.
Oh, I'm not going to be happy for quite a while. I'm for sure of that.
Legal out.
Oh, she just won the show.
That was awesome.
I'll tell you, so sometimes when 9 by 90, I'd write down like something's exciting I want to talk about more. I actually think this Jimmy Butler, CJ McCollum leadership discussion has so many interesting elements in it. I want to start the conversation with one little thing, which is I've spent a fair amount of time with writers who are working on their Jimmy Butler stories. It comes up every year. Every year, a writer has the Jimmy Butler story. Jimmy Butler's available. Like, he's available to writers, and he has big ideas about leadership, right? And it's very hard to decipher from afar if he's, like, the most reputable leader in the room who people are responding to, and he has the voice that matters more than, say, the overbearing coach. Or if he's someone who wants to go from like fringe all-star to like stud MVP and wants journalists to help them along by talking about what a great leader he is, right? To me, I've always been looking for who's following. Like, if you're a leader, somebody's following, right? And for the first 5 times someone pitched this story, the answer was nobody was following. Like, you could not identify a teammate of Jimmy's who was like, Jimmy's the man, I roll with Jimmy. Like, remember he was on that Bulls team that had a bunch of real heavy hitter leaders, and they were like basically out injured, and then Jimmy just started taking all the minutes and touches, and then he just was like, yeah, I'm in charge now. And they were like, what? Like, you are not in charge now. Obviously that's changed, right? Obviously, like the signs are all over the place now that he's just an incredible leader. Maybe he's matured, or maybe, here's where it gets very interesting to have David here for this too, is it is very possible in the NBA that there are times where some player like Jimmy knows more, has earned more, like CJ was talking about, has earned the reputation, earned the talking stick more than the coach, right? And feels it and is stressed out by the fact that they aren't being the focal point. And when that happens, I think the coach tends to get really mad at the player or go to the media and say like, oh, this guy, he's difficult, right? Whereas really it's like, no, he's just better at this than you are, right? So I don't know where we fall on like Jimmy in Philadelphia, where he was seen as difficult, but was he really like the more natural leader there, or who, the players, I don't know. I've talked enough.
I think it's an interesting thing. A couple of thoughts. Jimmy in Philly, and I've talked to Henry about this. His issues were he didn't mind so much. This is what teammates have told me. He didn't mind so much having to throw to Joel Embiid all the time. He just didn't love the dude standing up in the suit screaming all the time to throw it to Joel Embiid. Like, dude, I know how to play. And that sounds, I didn't hear this firsthand. The people who told me this I trust, but it sounds like a player talking. When they know at that stage, they know how to play. And so now let's talk about Spoelstra. This is just a guess, all right? But when you, as a young coach, have to coach LeBron and Wade and Bosh, and guys like Henry Abbott are sending a team of reporters to Miami to meet with them every day, that is what's happened is evolution. Spoelstra had to manage that circus, right? And actually still run the team, okay? So it wasn't just, okay, LeBron, do whatever you want. I remember, though, 2010. He had to fight LeBron. Like LeBron, I believe, Henry I think there was an article in ESPN about LeBron saying, I want an MVP playing this way. And Spoelstra got them to play, in many cases, really beautiful basketball. Very, very, very good basketball. And so he got that groove of, well, how do I control these amazing players just enough where I get to kind of have some impact? That is my job, being paid for it. And yet give them complete authority to run their team too. And I think he's fucking genius at it now. I think Spoelstra is absolutely in charge to the degree that he's supposed to be in charge. It's not it's not Nick Saban, where he's the bully. No, it is a group of men. And now it's a group of men that are allowing some 14-year-old looking 20-year-old to score 37 in a big and very, very important game.
You didn't have to add that 14-year looking.
He looks like a freshman in high school. I know. I had one 5 years ago. They didn't care that it's Tyler Herro being the hero. They're just trying to win a ball game. That's a mature group of men that has that. And I don't think Spoelstra deserves the credit. I think they all do. And I promise you this last thing. Yeah, Pat Riley and whatever, those guys were involved. But Udonis behind the scenes, who's probably very much like Jimmy, just never was as good a player, that hasn't hurt because he is the OG. The OG. And I think he's down for, if they can get to the finals again, whatever. We'll take whatever. And they have brought in. I don't know that they're going to win the series. They're favorites to win the series, but we've seen 3-1 comebacks before now, twice in this postseason. I think that those guys are like they're on to something. And Spoelstra, by the way, get used to this. He's fantastic. Remember, he was the guy that coached a team that went 11-30, and then went 30-11 in the same year. Never had been done.
Yep.
So he is a hell of a coach, and they've got something going on. That's for sure.
Coach, I think you hit something on the head there. Early on in his tenure, Spoelstra as head coach, when LeBron had first gotten there was all that dust up, right? Initially with Brown, the whole bump on TV in that national TV game, and clearly there was some strife going on. I think it was important that Riley made it very clear, like, look, this is the connection we have here. Mickey, me, and Erik. Like, this is how it's going to go.
Great point.
If you have to roll with that, then this place ain't for you. And this idea of the Heat culture, then, so to your point, if he can deal with LeBron and all of that, Jimmy Butler, that's easy. I can deal with that. And something interesting he said in that video that I played Judy played for 9x90, we didn't let it finish, when Spo said about Tyler, I think it's even more important that Tyler got the respect of his teammates, not just the coaches, with what he does. And that's to your point, David, about the coach being in charge, but allowing the players to have their say and be also in charge.
Well, and if David's, I could write a whole book of just like David's philosophies of life to basketball applied to like everything else. He could also write that book, so I won't do it. But
I did.
So if leadership is breathing spirit into others, quote, it's on the wall right over there. Then okay, so I know the Blazers better, so let me use them as an example. And TJ McCollum referred to D, right? So it's inarguable to me that Damian Lillard being very unfettered in his ability to call the shots on the Blazers has made Carmelo Anthony the most valuable he's been in a long time, right? I think I can make a similar argument about practically everyone on the roster, right? So this is from management books, right? You pass the authority down as far as you responsibly can so that the Jimmy Butler character can empower the Tyler Herro character, right? Like Spo probably can't fire up Tyler Herro quite like Jimmy can, right? And you know, it seems like Jimmy's had a pretty big effect on Bam Adebayo, right? So like, I think as these things happen, I think like that's the point, right? Is that, you know, us middle-aged white guys, we're really inspiring. Don't get me wrong. But maybe to some younger people, like there are other better characters to fire you up, right?
I think no, you're hilarious, Henry. I think the other part of that that's makes sense about this is Jimmy's style, right? And we talked about breathing spirit, but Jimmy, based on his upbringing and his background, which he only knows one way to breathe spirit, right? And that literally is surviving for my life. I don't know this other way to like coddle, and his brain can't do that based on his life experiences. I can't access that. So again, to my point, I don't think it's about he's trying to be a dick. I just think it's, look, this is how I know how this works because I've seen literally the bottoms and the depths. Here's how you get to here. And if you can't have that same level of, you don't have to have the same background, but that want to, he's just like, it's like a computer not talking, cannot compute. I don't know what this is.
Urgency is a big deal. So what you're describing there, when we're watching these bubble games, when I watched Boston-Miami the last game, I did not see that from Jason Tatum in the first half. He had the Paul George look. And I don't mean to brand Paul George. It's unfair. The bubble is affecting you for lots of different reasons. You're not seeing your family, whatever. You're really, in a sense, kind of imprisoned. It's not a state prison, but you can't go a lot of places. That exists. So Butler, he's not perfect, but that dude plays with urgency. And that's always an important thing. Something Henry and I talk a lot about is the mistake we think franchises have made over the years in going with just old guys because they make better decisions, which they often do. By the way, except when they're tired. Then they're fucking dumb as everybody else. They're dumb as everyone else. But even when they're not tired, old guys can't move like young guys can, right? Tyler Herro's all over the place. Someone texted me earlier, can the Celtics solve the problem? I don't know. But I know this, it won't be because of fatigue factor like it is with the Lakers right now. They can't get LeBron and Davis both playing great fourth quarters. They can't. Davis died again yesterday. 2 games in a row he has, and this sometimes survived. Even Jamal Murray's starting to show a little fatigue because everyone's on him all the time. Tyler Herro doesn't even start the games. Like, this is a party for him, and he's got young legs. But the problem with young guys typically is a lack of urgency because they'll make it's easy. We made the Eastern Conference Finals as a rookie. I'll be there 7 more times. Maybe, but probably not. And so that's where that culture comes in. Like, hey, young fella, every possession counts. Every tape thing counts. And then, Jarod, that video you showed where Spoelstra talked about taking it, the grind over the course of months. We talked about this at TrueHoop and wrote about it. Who's going to win the pandemic break? Who's going to win? Well, I'll tell you who won. Tyler Herro won. Yeah. Other guys have won too, but he definitely is one of the big winners. He clearly got much, much better. And maybe just assertive and confidence is enough. He always had the skill. And so all those things matter. And that goes, I give the Heat, you got to give the Heat credit for that. They did something right.
Well, so when LeBron chose the Heat, you were very excited about his potential with Spo. And you talked about, like, you know, he's almost a Thibodeau-esque, like, you know, obsessive worker, right? Like, Spo would be at the gym at 3 a.m. if you wanted to be at the gym at 3 a.m. kind of
typical lifer, yeah.
But I'll tell you what, I'm so happy that this Jimmy Butler, Tom Thibodeau pairing has been broken up because I don't think they're healthy for each other. Like, I think that, like, you know, there is, like, you know, a gazillion hours of work is how you get to this level of the game, but it's not inspiring, right? It's not how you become a leader, right? You have to also pivot to like, what can I say to other people to make them feel good, right? And this is where I think that Thibodeau and Jimmy, all those stories were about like Jimmy Butler sleeps in a sleeping bag at the practice facility. It's like, oh yeah, well Tom Thibodeau sleeps in a sleeping bag. Like it's just like at some point 7,000 hours a day of work is not the right number of hours a day, right? Like, and I think they just like egged each other on into this like sort of zone. I maybe told the story about these players swinging by the practice facility at like after a night out at 1 a.m. With a key to the stadium and just shooting around with their buddies, right? With people who aren't in the NBA, and the lights on. It's July, and Thibodeau comes down like, "Oh, so glad to see you guys here." And they were like, Thibodeau thinks they're gonna bond over their love of the game, and they're like, "What the fuck is this crazy fucking man fucking doing here at this fucking hour in the fucking summer?" Like he's just off on another planet, and we can't relate to him anymore, right? I think there's a lot of that with Jimmy too, right? We're just like, no, that's not inspiring. You're just a weirdo, Jimmy. So now I feel like Spoelstra's a little different, right? He's a little more laid back. He's a little less on top of it. He's a little less aggro, and I think it might empower a little more team vibe. And what do you feel like doing today, Tyler? Which is probably helpful sometimes.
No,
he's probably talked Jimmy down off a little bit. Like I don't even notice Jimmy in some of these games. He had, if I asked you how many points did he score in the last game, what would you guess? Would you guess less than 10, less than 20? What would you guess?
20, I think, somewhere around 20.
Yeah, he did. I would have thought less than that. I didn't really notice him as bad. I think he might have even had 24. Like he played really well.
Free throws though, he shot a ton of free throws.
Yeah, he always does. It's one of the things he does well, and he defends and all of that. But I think they've done a good job of. It's not about you. It's about us. And I think, and I've coached lots of Jimmy Butlers in my life. They've not almost always been as good as him. Most cases, they have not nearly been as good as him. I'm talking about high school guys. But when you find someone from that environment and you show them, dude, I got your back no matter what, and then they have your back, that is a glorious place to be. And they can finally exhale because they've never been able to relax and exhale. As many Americans can when they're fighting day to day just to survive, right? That feeling of exhaling, knowing my teammates and my team have my back is an enormously powerful thing. And so I think Jimmy, they found a home with him and he found a home with them. And they've got Bam Adebayo and Tyler Herro and Duncan Robinson. Duncan's not so young anymore. He just hasn't played much because of his journey. When you talk about young teams, like Denver is so young, but Miami's got a lot of future to look forward to. And that's the last thing I want to say on this, because Henry mentioned Dimitri Hill, who was like my first All-American when I was a high school coach. So Dimitri came to us. I started driving him to practice in 8th grade. He was 6'5", 6'6", 300 pounds. He was an amazing player, don't get me wrong. I learned way more from him.
Just like Judy.
Right. Don't piss her off. I learned way more from Dimitri than he learned from me, for sure. But people always think I developed him. It's BS. I learned a lot from him because he was a genius player. The only thing I really did smart probably.
Where's Coach?
He
was already on the ice today. Maybe I didn't.
Probably besides driving him every day to practice.
David, we lost you for like all of that. You got to start over. He was in your car. Now he's frozen again.
Oh, wow. We got some technical difficulties here.
Is Dimitri Hill hacking Zoom somehow to stop the real story from coming out?
I will say this about Jimmy. Is David back? Oh, no.
I don't know.
Did you see that? Did you see part of the clip where he showed up to practice wearing Tyler Herro's high school?
Yeah, that was beautiful. That was perfect. That was perfect.
Yeah, those moments matter.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, super. David, are you back? I don't think so.
No. Well, we'll keep talking till Coach gets back.
I've got another topic for you, Jarod.
Yeah.
I have a little theory about Cory Booker. So, you're of course. David, are you back? Oh, there's two Davids. What the hell's going on? Wait, do you guys see this?
We have two Davids.
I'm just gonna say this. When I'm in a movie and the movie gets fuzzy, I'm not the guy that yells focus. People yell focus. Well, Today's world, you don't do this so much, but when I grew up, I'm the guy that jumps races out of the theater to tell someone, will you fucking get our thing focused, please, trying to watch.
Yeah.
So if I get fuzzy on this thing, I'm just clicking off and coming back on. I'm not waiting for it to be figured out.
Man of action. Noted. Okay. We were just Dimitri Hill was 300 pounds in your car when we lost you.
Just very quickly, he was this huge guy. The only smart thing I ever did was I made him play point guard in the summer. I learned much more from him than he did from me. He was a genius player. And he ended up being, to this day, he still has the record all the time for a point scored as a post player in Florida. He was an amazing player, and he played at Florida. He started for them in 1994 when they went to the Final Four. He had 17-9 against Duke and Grant Hill, who was miraculous in the end of the game, and they beat Florida in a great game. And then he led the SEC in scoring as a senior in college and shot threes. Back then he was probably 6'6", 275, right? But he learned how to play basketball because we taught him how to play basketball. And Henry made a point about motivating guys. The football coach, we had an amazing football coach when I was at this school. He took a team to the state championship and lost to Emmitt Smith. He left that team, which was right by where our school was, to come to our school just for Dimitri, because he had seen him play basketball and he knew this guy's gonna be the greatest football player ever. And he met with me. He's like, you're like his dad. He'll do whatever you say. Can you convince me to play football? I said, I'm happy to have him play football, but inspire him to be like a defensive end or a fullback. He's like, what are you talking about? He's gonna be 300 pounds. I said, I know, but he knows his future will be offensive line. Let him have some fun now, carrying the ball or tackling people. And he said, great idea. So we went to meet with Dimitri. Dimitri came to see me later and says, Coach, do you think I can play basketball if I weigh 320, 330? I said, probably not. He's like, well, I'm not playing football. I said, what do you mean? He's going to play fullback. He said, no, he got me inspired to be the #1 offensive lineman in the country. So he never even played football, which is fine. He played professional basketball for 12 years. But you've got to see long-term, and they're allowed to have fun. This goes back to the Jimmy Butler thing. Like, it's not fun to just get the ball to Joel Embiid every fucking time. Part of why Kobe probably got frustrated sometimes. Like, dude, I got skills too. Can I just not feed the gigantic man inside every possession and not get yelled at for it? Like, it's supposed to be fun. That's a big part of it.
And the other guy, and like if Shaq got to do more things with the ball, I feel like so Shaq had injuries owing to being out of shape, right? But he would have been in shape if he needed to be in shape for what he did with his day job, right? Like who knows? He actually, he would screw around in front of reporters intentionally to show he could like do crossovers and stuff. And I'm like, maybe we should have worked on that. Maybe we should develop that.
Anthony Davis won a game, and maybe he's going to win the series because of it, for making a three. 20 years ago, there's no way he ever is allowed to shoot threes.
Yeah.
Gigantic 7-foot guy, super fast, athletic, and great hands. Like, no. But yeah, Jokic too. Look at Jokic.
And what was the controversy? Like, Anthony Davis didn't want to play center, right? Like, this was the controversy, and we're all like, oh, he's difficult. Now we're like, oh, he's a shooting guard genius, right? He's Kevin Durant, right? Now we know. Like, he was right.
Yeah, why? The reason why they don't want to play center, and I've gone through this many times with players, is because the guys that are Steven Adams, which is half the league, they're huge, and it hurts. Yeah. Like, Davis got in the chest by Morris, I believe.
Off the ground. I was like, oh, my God.
Right, because the beating you take. Well, imagine being beaten by Steven Adams all year. Right? It takes a toll. And so it's just intelligence. Anthony Davis is guilty of being really smart. His really smart part of the body said, you know what? Pick your spots to be a center, especially when your team isn't playing a really big guy, and I'll be way better off.
A comment that I'll never forget was when Yao was in his ascendance. Bill Walton was calling games. And Yao had a little bit of this game, right? Like, Yao had some Jokic, right? And Bill Walton was basically like on the broadcast, like, Yao, like, you do what you do. Don't let them use your body like a battering ram. Like, which I think was actually, this was Bill Walton too, right? Bill Walton won a championship with these little laser passes and stuff, right? And I felt like it is such a rare thing to be 7 feet tall. And it's rarer still to be 7 feet tall with skill. To take that body and just use it to freaking knock over Steven Adams is a stupid use of this rare and precious thing, right? Like Jokic it up, man.
Yeah.
Walton had a thing come out recently where he really talked about, Jokic and that type of play. I'm like celebrating like that, the skill of a 7-footer. And I think, again, it just goes back to what Coach is saying, right? Like if you're 7 feet and you can pass, dribble, and shoot, well, that's kind of a big thing, right? That's a matchup nightmare. That's why I always laugh when like people are like, oh, if you take these guys and put them back in the 80s, they get killed. Like, what are you talking about?
God.
When are coming down court pulling up from 30 feet, those guys would not know what to do. They'd be like, what is this?
There's a book. I don't know if I've told Henry about this because it's way too lowbrow for his intellect. But people like me, we can read these kind of books. It's a stupid science fiction book. My younger brother Ricky told me to read it. But it's got a cool idea. There's a small island in the Pacific that's discovered, and it's never been seen by humans before. And the evolution of the species on that island is such that there's not a single animal you can recognize. And they're pretty suspicious that these animals, including small ones, are vicious. So the group of scientists get together and they decide what animal that we can capture can we let loose on this island just to verify just how incredibly poisonous and toxic and death-defying these other animals are, these other species. They don't know what they are. And they pick a mongoose, which surprised me. I thought it'd be a honey badger or a wolverine. I'm no expert. But they pick a mongoose because it's super quick and small and it can catch cobras, for crying out loud. And they let this mongoose loose and it's eviscerated in seconds. It has no shot. And that's exactly what I think of if you want to drop AD or Bam Adebayo or or LeBron, of course, or Curry back in the 80s. I watched those games still. In fact, I did the other day for my article. I watched some Kareem tape. Like, they won't know. They would be eviscerated in seconds. Are you kidding me? No one guarded anyone outside of 18 feet. They talk about hand checking. Yeah, they bumped you when you were inside 18 feet, but no one's guarding you out there. I mean, you let AD, he's like Wilt Chamberlain meets Bill Russell. I wrote that, actually. That's why I said it. That's what it is. He's unstoppable, except he also can shoot. Like, those guys weren't even allowed to. That's credit our coaches today. And credit Calipari. We quote him in the article that I wrote. Mark Stein quoted him in the New York Times article, I think today, where he said, Adebayo lobbied. Well, Henry, you probably read the article. I didn't finish it. Adebayo lobbied for a scholarship to Kentucky. It's like, why aren't you guys recruiting me?
I love that. Yeah, he calls up out of the blue and he's like, why aren't you guys recruiting me? And they're like, and they say no other questions. He wasn't like, who else are you going to have? Which is a big deal. Ball? What position will I play? He just was like, you should have me. And they're like, all right. And I guess he wanted
his own position.
Stuff. He wanted the ball more, but they were like, Right.
But he created his own position.
Yeah.
Like point center. Calipari never had. Julius Randle, I mean, Calipari's done a good job too. He's not my favorite coach or anything, but he's let guys play. And then you talk about identifying talent. Not that it's hard when you're just recruiting McDonald's All-Americans, but like Jamal Murray was on in that franchise, and Devin Booker, and it is a franchise, by the way. It's not a school. It's a school, but the basketball team's a franchise. Let's be clear. They've had some. When Julius Randle's one of their disappointing guys, that's pretty good.
they got some studs out there. Woo!
And he lets them play a little bit. He isn't hammering them into playing this one thing. Henry's done this with me before, where we've kind of wondered what the game's going to look like. And I definitely didn't get it right. I thought we'd see more teams playing like Houston because there's guys like PJ Tucker that don't have the height and the neck length, but the length to guard anyone. All 5 shooters, all 5 athletes. Not that Houston's athletic. I think they'd be better if they were. But it turns out it's going to be a lot more like Davis's and Jokic's than Adebayo's. And you better be like freaking Tyler Herro and Steph Curry to get on the court. Because if you're little, you have to really be able to shoot it.
This made me thinking, let's play GM hats really quick, Coach and Henry. Let's just say the Sixers get D'Antoni, right? That's the coach they get, whatever. Clearly, if you get D'Antoni, you got to move one of Embiid or Simmons, right? Because that ain't going to work with how Mike wants to play. In an ideal world, who are you moving him for and what are you getting back? Or who are you moving and what are you getting back for?
I want to hear Dave's answer, but let me just jump in and say, I don't know that it guarantees a trade. I mean, he had Carmelo and Kobe, super not D'Antoni players, right? Like I don't know, to run the classic version of the D'Antoni system, then yeah. But he's coached a lot of different kinds of teams. with middling results, but like, Carmelo held the ball the whole time he worked for Mike D'Antoni. He just did. Like, that's what happened. So this could happen as with this roster.
This is going to sound crazy to you, Jarod, but I would trade both. I would trade both because first of all, it's stupid. I don't know what either of their health outlooks are, right? Let's assume, though, Mike will know and it's not his job. It's Elton Brand. Now it's Elton Brand and the other. I think they hired someone else too to work with them. But Embiid's prone. His risk for injury is greater than what you'd want. And I've questioned Ben Simmons since day one in terms of real commitment to being the best player in the league, which he could very well be close to that. And the fact that he still won't shoot is just so weird to me. At least Giannis has tried. Ben hasn't even tried. And their value is still super high. Ben Simmons made, I think, first team all defense, and Embiid is just, he's the old school great center. I would consider at least looking at both. And if I had to pick just one, I'd probably lean. If I thought Embiid was going to be healthy enough, I would lean to trade Ben. But I would play around with what I could do with trading both guys.
I'll tell you what, this is a game of cap management, really, right? Like, what value can you get from this roster? And like, actually, this is a useful thing. But like, a guy who used to work on my team told me that like, you win a championship by paying. This is a different cap time, but like by paying $60 million for $100 million team, right? So you need to underpay everybody to get that kind of value, right? But that's sort of how it works. When you look at that roster, they're doomed by the Tobias Harris deal.
Yes.
Like, they're just doomed. It's a terrible contract, and it's just getting worse, right? So
Tobias Harris deal, the Al Horford deal, like it's bad. All
bad.
I would trade Simmons, I guess, and then I would figure out if I can do a 14 deal and get Horford to go too. Well, that's going to be likely impossible. Can I get back Chris Paul and shooters? Maybe that might work.
It's okay, but here's I was playing this game a little bit in my head yesterday, and I'm like, that sounds good. Your Chris Paul, Joel Embiid team is exciting and has a little window of opportunity, but here's what I see. Yeah, Chris Paul's going to not be good in a year and a half, and Joel Embiid's going to get hurt any day. And then what's going on? Now you're a Tobias Harris team.
Then I'm screwed. I'm in salary cap hell, and I'm like a 20-win team, and it's terrible.
It really comes down to also, and I know Philly's a different place, let's face it. When you're snowballing Santa Claus, I watched it. Like, I watched TV. Back then I watched football. When you're snowballing Santa Claus, I love it now, but back then I thought that's weird. So it's a little bit different city. But my philosophy as a GM, and I'm never going to be one, would be I want to build a 55-win team in perpetuity. And so whatever I have to do I'm not looking to try to win 70. If it happens, great. I'm certainly not going to complain about it. But what I'm not going to do is go all in to win 70 or 65 and risk the next 3, 4, 5 years. I want to give my season ticket holders, like, I want generations of people knowing we're going to be very good, fun to watch, competitive, and we're going to be, if luck comes our way, we're going to win a championship too. That to me that's how I would do it.
Essentially the San Antonio, Oklahoma City model, right? Like,
and Dallas,
right?
And the Mavericks.
And if you get lucky, you draft Tim Duncan, James Harden, Kevin Durant, and then you maybe get a shot. If not, you just win your games. You go to the playoffs every year.
Yep.
So Caleb's got a position I respect here, which is he unabashedly loves Embiid, and so would trade Simmons. Like, I feel exactly the same way, but the opposite. Like, I'm Team Simmons. Like, it might be doomed, but just because he's younger, mobile, healthy, and if he can learn how to shoot, then he's an MVP, right? So I would just go all in on Simmons and pieces that fit with Simmons, and everyone else except Matisse Thybulle is available.
Listen,
4 shooters, right? Like,
I would play Simmons the way Miami plays Adebayo.
Yeah,
he would be my playmaking center. That's what I would do with him. Adebayo doesn't shoot threes. To your point, Jarod, you said earlier, I tweeted this the other day. Imagine Adebayo as a 3-point shooter, and because it's Twitter, people try to beat me up as if I'm stupid to suggest that he may want to learn another skill. The average age of those people.
Coach Thorpe, what are you talking about? You're wrong.
As if it'd be a bad thing where he can actually make threes. And the thing is, he's got a nice looking jump shot.
Yeah.
It's a pretty looking shot. It's stupid to think he won't be able to learn to shoot the 3, actually. It's also offensive. Like, there's
What's been
nothing
going
wrong
on?
with this man. Steven Adams, I can understand why you may think he won't be able to shoot threes. This guy is this beautiful athlete who's committed and working. Why wouldn't he be able to shoot threes? Come on.
Somewhere, if I dig through my Gmail, somewhere I have like a giant long screed from a very angry person who was sure I didn't understand anything about basketball because I thought that Marc Gasol's game, this was back in the peak grit and grind time, would be improved if he shot threes. And it's just like, and then he went to Toronto and won a championship for doing it. It's like,
how dare
you know how good that team would have been if one of those, if they were in each other's laps. Yeah. One of them could have vacated the paint for the other one. Like, that would have been something else. But anyway, yeah. Every time you suggest someone who can't shoot threes should shoot threes, people will tell you that that's a stupid idea. It's just a rule. I don't know why. It's a rule.
We've gone all this time and we haven't mentioned the Louisville verdict.
Yeah, Devin had actually messaged me. He's like, "Are you guys going to talk about it?" And I said, "I'm sure we probably will." I mean, and Judy, maybe you could chime in here. I know we're getting close to danger time legal.
We got a few minutes.
There's so much wrong, and people often say things like the system's broken, and I say this all the time. The system is not broken. The system works perfectly as it was designed to. Grand juries and secret meetings, and this is how it works if you don't want to hold certain people accountable because you don't value the lives of certain citizens. This is how it works. It works perfectly, right? The idea that the property and the walls in the apartment are of more value, right? Black humans' rights, right? That's what that is. And so, the idea that Daniel Cameron comes out and he's like, "Oh, we're not going to let, movie stars and people dictate that." It's like, look, man, this guy is a political hack. Clearly, he is in bed with the RNC. I mean, Christ, his wife is Mitch McConnell's niece, for crying out loud. I mean, this is not surprising what we're seeing. Sadly, like the fact that no murder charges were brought who's surprised by that? Are any of you you ask yourself, are you surprised? The answer has to be no. The question going forward is the people in Louisville, how are we going to fix this? And Edina and I always say this, and Judy, we talked about this offline before we started the show. We got to burn this mother down. Like, that's how this stuff changes. It's not incremental. Clearly doesn't work. We're watching it. What increments? It's 2020. What increments have happened since 1619? Nothing. The same thing goes on day after day after day. And see, I'm getting fired up now, Coach. It's just the reality of this, right? So I am not surprised, but we actually want true change. It literally is burn this thing down. And like in all revolutions and things that actually inspire change, people have to die. That's the collateral damage for change. That's how it works. No other way.
But
so here's the thing, though.
Go ahead, Henry. Go ahead.
So we should get, actually, Jarod, you had a genius idea there, which is make Judy talk at the end of the show.
Yeah, that way.
So smart. So smart. But I had a friend who wanted to leave New York after 9/11, and it was just like, go. Respect that, understand that, it was scary. But we had this big conversation, and it was like, where are you going? Because you're going to live somewhere. Like, where will you be? Will that be better? Like, it's not that I'm saying it isn't. It's just like, where is it? You're going to a place. I think in life, you want to go to a place. So, okay, where you want to depart from this, as you're describing brilliantly, where are we going? What's the next thing look like? What's that about? I think we can get that vision together a little early, right? Like, I know there's a lot of work been done in this regard, but I think it's like, and to me, one of the things that one of the words that has to be in there, actually, Cory Booker said it, is decency, right? Like decency's big, dignity's big. These are the things that we're losing that we don't want to lose. Anyway, David, I cut you off.
I cut you off. Jarod, I like specifics, right? I'm big for ideas, burn this down. What are we going to do specifically? And one of my thoughts is, and my wife and I, we walk most nights, we talked about it, and this is science fiction. I realize this is The Watchmen. It's never going to happen. But we should be selecting some group of scholars and people representing America and all that we look like and our backgrounds, and fucking start a brand new constitution from scratch.
Sure.
We can pick some things here and there that we like murder is a bad thing. We should probably include murdering is bad, and we'll go to jail for it.
We can all agree with that.
We should literally start from scratch, and then we can vote on it if we want to. There's an idea. I know this as a coach. I have these great ideas back when I was coaching teams, and then we start playing games. I realize, oh, these ideas are fucking terrible. It's not at all. And what I thought would happen would not happen. What I didn't do is continue just to tweak, but keep the system overall. No, scrap it. We're starting over, and we're going to build step by step. This is what we should do right now. It's not, this Constitution doesn't work. And by the way, the word women should be involved in the Constitution. We should have that word as equals. Equal rights amendment still isn't ratified. There's many other problems, but that would be one that I would start with. Let's start with
I think I'll say, to your point, Coach, about specifics. Yes, of course, my larger themes burn it all down.
Yeah. Of course.
The first way we burn it down is the disbanding of the #1 band in the world of all time, the capitalist machine. Like, that is the first thing that must be dismantled in its current form, because we see what unregulated capitalism does. It creates this thing that we have right now is unregulated capitalism. And so that's one of the first things we have to do. I'm with you on the Constitution being literally starting all over. And no farewell tour. Yes, Caleb, there will be no farewell tour. Listen, they OD'd on heroin. They all died. Like, that's it. Over. End of story. And we are just, we're starting this bad boy over.
Our government is supposed to protect and promote its people, right? Any government is supposed to do that in theory. And we are adhering to a parchment that was created by men that had slaves and settled disputes by duels.
Yeah, literally.
Okay? I'm not so convinced how genius they were. I'm not saying they didn't have some intellectual thoughts. Right. But if they didn't agree with you, they'd say, meet you outside of the grassy knoll. I got my revolver. You'll have yours.
But, David, if we could get Mitch McConnell in a duel, that could improve America. Judy, you want to weigh in here or no? I can't tell from I'm trying to read the tea leaves.
Yo, there are amendments to the Constitution. Hello? Like, living document. You know better than me.
Legal.
I'm just going to put one perspective out there.
Okay.
My first child I had when I was like 29. I was an idiot when I was 29. And I decided that I was going to be a parent. And now I'm going to be a parent for the rest of my life. I'm going to be a parent for the rest of my life. It's a process. I'm going to screw them up. I'm going to do better. I'm going to have great days and bad days. There are some people who believe that the Constitution is as it's written. They're called strict constructionists.
Right.
And Samuel Alito's one of them. Many others, scholars believe that the Constitution is a living document in much the same way that people interpret the Bible, that you're supposed to understand the general intent and purpose of the Constitution, and then it grows with society. So this is an opportunity for society to grow.
Well, they're just making your point in a really interesting way, Judy.
Screwing up right now. My point is, I don't think we should blow up the Constitution. I think we need to have a new reimagining of what the Constitution means. And I think we need to put to bed certain perspectives on what the Constitution means. So I'm not actually disagreeing with you, Jarod.
Yeah, you kind of are.
I think we have to blow up a whole bunch of things, but there are just certain things that we can't start over, right? We're here, we're where we are, and it means that sometimes there's screaming children while you're on camera. That's the decision you made.
What we're trying to do, right, is what a lot of businesses do, right? It's when you first start as a business, you're agile, nimble, you can fail, but pivot really quickly and figure out. As you grow to scale and you start siloing, those decisions become much more difficult and damn near impossible. You need 85 letters of approval to change a comma on a website. Right? That's what happens when you get, and that's, we're there. We are the big, humongous thing that, nope, can't change that comma without a billion things happening first. And we need to somehow get to that agile mindset while still also being this massive, humongous cruise ship.
We just need to get a really big bowl of salsa and a really big bag of chips.
What kind of chips? What are your favorite chips?
That actually sounds doable. I got to be honest. I think we can do that.
What are your chips? Judy, what's your chips of choice?
Sochil. is my brand of choice for both salsa and chips. Anyway, I'm going to shut us down because it's 12 o'clock.
So, Legal has spoken. Out.
Have a great weekend,
Beautiful.
everyone.
Thank you guys. That was fun.
Here
See you
goes.
next week.